Right, folks. On the Channel 4 a couple of nights ago, David Cameron was on like EU Question Time, and the topic of the EU Army popped up, and he categorically said that he wouldn't support an EU Army. But what people got to understand, the EU Army has already been formed, and it's already based in this country, right? He knows if he lets out that the EU Army and he supports the EU Army, and there's a base for the EU Army in this country, the HQ is already in this country, he knows everyone will vote out of the EU. Because if we stay in the EU, this country's finished. It will no longer be Great Britain, the country will lose its identity, the whole of the EU will change. It will be commonly known as the United States of Europe. Be one EU army, one European army. We'll lose our army, so Britain will no longer have its own army. It will be gone. But what they're not letting you know is what I'm about to show you. So on the 23rd of this month, vote out of the EU. And this is why.
Cameron, as far as we're concerned, it's treason, and we've been warning and warning about the creation of the EU military, and our warnings are now coming to fruition. So the Express here reporting that an EU army will happen, and it will weaken British defences. Now, it's been a retired colonel, Colonel Kemp, who's come out with this. Very senior man, and of course, what he's really talking about is not just an EU army, this is the full EU military operation. And we can now tell our viewers that senior military officers are reporting, retired military officers, I should say, are reporting that the whole of the structure is now in place. And if David Cameron chose to activate the EU military command and control structure throughout UK, that would be activated within 24 hours, and we would no longer be operating as a discrete nation state. We would no longer be operating within the NATO command and control structure. We would be fully integrated into a European military command and control structure. We can also tell our viewers and listeners that we have it on good authority that the former RAF base at RAF St Morgan in Cornwall has now been established as the EU military headquarters in UK. The inset there is a photograph of part of the base, no longer operating as a base for mainstream aircraft for the RAF, but French military personnel have been operating there for some considerable time, and we now know that this is the centre of the EU military command and control structure. So all of this set up, total lies and deceit by British Prime Minister David Cameron, as this EU military structure has been embedded in the UK with no debate in Westminster and no public announcement. And of course, Mike, the thing that makes this particularly serious is that all that is needed is some sort of crisis within UK. And we've now got a considerable number, thousands of French troops, complete with heavy equipment, on British soil. So it's quite remarkable.
That might be an ISIS crisis, perhaps?
That would be ideal.
An yes. ISIS crisis? Well, this is apparently what's going to happen, because according to this US intelligence chief, James Clapper, he was asked if clandestine ISIS cells, such as those in Brussels, exist in England. And he said, yes, they do. That is a concern of obviously ours and our European allies. And he said, we continue to see evidence of plotting on the part of ISIL, or ISIS, or Daesh, or whatever they're called this week, in the countries you name. Well, of course, David Cameron is helping create this perpetual enemy that we're going to face, because he has just given £2 billion, or he has arranged for £2 billion to go to the EU to help Turkey, Serbia, and Albania join the European Union.
So on one hand, we've got people saying, well, the problem is the open border policy simply allows terrorists, if we believe in these terrorists, to move freely. He cooks up another $2 billion to help the process.
Exactly. So push the borders out to Turkey. Can we rely on Turkey, Serbia, and
Well, there you go. That's what I've been saying all along. The EU Army HQ is already based in this country. So, the only way to get the EU Army out of this country and get the French troops out of this country and to keep our borders closed to stop terrorists coming through with the asylum seekers and the refugees is to close our borders and to get back control of our borders. So we need to vote out of the EU on the 23rd of this month. Otherwise, we'll no longer be Great Britain. We'll become part of the United States of Europe. We will no longer have our own army. It'll be the EU army, one army for all EU countries. So we won't have our own armed forces. So we will have no defence whatsoever. So there is a major terrorist attack like there was in Paris. We will have no troops to deal with it. We will be a sitting duck. So we need to vote out of the EU to get our borders back, to get the EU army base out of our country, and for Britain to have our own armed forces to protect her own people. So if we stay in the EU, we will not have our own armed forces. The British people will have no protection whatsoever. So there you go. Think about that one.